name is Luke Richards, and this is a show where we give second life to film projects or film concepts that were not fully recognised. So whether that be, for example, Nicolas Cage being Superman or Rambo fighting werewolves in the supposed Rambo 5 script. For my guest today, I have an actor, good friend of mine, and cheeky chaffy, David Allen. David, welcome to the Pitching Room.
Hi, you alright?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Surviving.
Oh, surviving. Well, you're doing better than the character that we're going to talk about later on. David and I are both actors and both performers. We were both supposed to be doing a show next month, but obviously due to COVID, that's on backfire at the moment. So fun times, eh?
Yeah.
So, David, welcome to the Pitch Room. So, for your pitch day, we're going to go back to 2007 and to talk a very specific film for today. Do you remember a little film called I Am Legend?
My name is Robert Neville. I'm a survivor living in New York City. I haven't seen another person in 3 years.
I do very much.
Indeed. The Will Smith vehicle, which is based upon the very popular sci-fi novel of the same name, I Am Legend, by Richard Matheson. So, David, can you tell me what your first thoughts of the Will Smith film when you saw it?
I remembered I really liked it at the time, but I think I liked it in the sense that a young lad at the time, seeing a Will Smith film with action and stuff, I was always going to love it because I was a big Will Smith fan. I think looking at it though, I don't like the CG. I felt like it was at a time where Hollywood relied so much on CGI and they didn't need to do that. I felt like the creatures could have been human. They could have done good makeup. And I felt like there was a bit of a bad taste at the end of it. But nonetheless, I still sat there and looked at Will Smith being Will Smith and loved every minute of it. So it was a middle ground. But also I did find it hard to watch it again because of the dog. A sad thing happening to the dog.
Scene.
It did it for me, and I kind of was like, I don't think I can watch this film again properly because of that dog. I'm that kind of person. I can't watch Marley and Me again. I've done it once. I can't do it again. So yeah. But what I will say also, after that scene, what I will admit, after that scene when that dog dies, there's a beautiful scene where Will Smith goes up to this doll and he just starts wishing it would talk to him. He set out these little mannequins and he looks at this girl mannequin that he pretends he's got a bit of a relationship with, and he just starts going, please talk to me. Please talk to me. And he starts crying. That's why it's a shame that it had a bad taste to it, because it's one of Will Smith's. It's one of his. It's a great film.
It's one of his best performances Will Smith has ever done. It doesn't feel like a Will Smith performance where he says the title of the film.
Exactly.
Exactly. No, this feels like a really, it's a really character piece. You're the only man alive on the world with just a dog, and you got straight time. It was really good. It's a great piece, and Will Smith gives us all. Because this is the third adaptation of the book, as I mentioned before. It's based on a novel of the same name, I Am Legend, by Richard Matheson, from the 50s. And there were two other film versions before. So it's the 1964 film with Vincent Price called The Last Man on Earth. And then in 1971, we had The Omega Man with Charlton Heston.
What a knob! Sorry.
I know the man who hates monkeys and people stealing his gun. Well, from his cold dead hands, he said, "Well,
Yeah." This went dark.
It did went dark very quickly. For some of don't know, Richard Matheson actually wrote the script for the first film with Vincent Price. However, a lot of people think that's the closest we'll ever get to a faithful adaptation. I mean, there are quite a few nitpicks of that film, being Vincent was too old for the role and production was quite low. And Mega Man is very 70s, that's all I can say.
I've only seen one clip, and it's him, you shocker, with a gun in his hand, shooting at some windows where a vampire's in it. That's what I've seen. And that was enough for me.
Fantastic. This is this is the third adaptation. It's very loosely based on the book. So the film was made for around 150 million. It was directed by, it was a big film. It was directed by Francis Lawrence, who went on to direct Constantine.
Hunger Games?
Yeah, he did the second and third film, so the better ones.
Yeah.
The film made around 505 million worldwide, so it was a box office hit, and it was a great vehicle for Will Smith. But David, what if I told you that there was actually going to be the third version, but it was going to be in the 90s?
Really? Tell me more, Luke.
Well, that's what I'm going to do, because this is when we go into our section of the film that never was. So, for those who don't know, there was going to be an original new concept for I Am Legend, directed by the one, the only Ripley Scott. What are your views on Ripley Scott as director before I go forward?
I love that you gave me this one, because I went into such. I'm going to try and keep it brief. But I went into such a because I have a big thing about film directors, and I love talking about them and stuff. Ridley Scott, for me, he is a good director, but I think he has a flaw, which some would say is a flaw and some would say is a good thing. And I think it's the same thing with Steven Spielberg. I think if you're as good a director as that eventually you just continuously make films, just continue good films, but you just continuously start making films over and over and over again, that eventually I find that sometimes their films lose a certain director's personality. So for example, Steven Spielberg, you'll watch a film and then you go, what, Steven Spielberg made that? Well, you go, oh, it's good, but you go, oh, right, I didn't know, because there's no continuity. It's not like an Edgar Wright film. You watch an Edgar Wright film, you go, oh, that's an Edgar Wright film. Do you know what I mean? You go, there's that moment. The only thing that Ridley Scott, I think, has done where you kind of go, okay, that's his personality and that's his style, it's probably Alien and Blade Runner. Yeah. Then I'm kind of going, all right, maybe this is you going, this is me on a film. This is my heart on a plate. And so when you come to I Am Legend, maybe that makes sense, I guess, because if you think of the Alien films and Blade Runner, they are both kind of dystopian. Well, Blade Runner is very dystopian, and then you've got Alien, which has got the hint of dystopia within space. So yeah, I get it. Basically, I get why he would try I Am Legend, definitely.
He is a brilliant director, and he has made such iconic films of sci-fi, like you mentioned, Alien, and Blade Runner, and in no credit, I would say The Martian. Yeah, he does come across as one of these directors who they kind of get comfortable in just making mediocre films.
Yes.
And because I think, to me, the last great film he made, which I actually really enjoyed, was American Gangster. And from
Thank you. Absolutely.
Great film. And I think between American Gangster towards The Martian, there was quite this period where he was making very by the numbers political films with Russell Crowe. And I think because the only other film that I enjoyed after The Martian was the one he did about John Paul Getty III, which was All the Money in the World. And we all know how that happened. I like that film. But yeah, so Ridley Scott was actually going to make a version of I Am Legend. And if you look at the backstory of this whole project, it's quite interesting, because Warner Brothers still had the rights to I Am Legend, and they wanted to bring back the sci-fi era, because what was happening in the 90s, there was a massive boom following sci-fi. You know, you had films like Contact, Sphere, these really big budget sci-fi films, and so Warner Brothers wanted to get on that. The writer by the name of Mark I don't know how to say his name, Progostich, Progovich.
Okay.
Yeah, Progovich. So he is the writer of such films as the Poseidon remake, as well as the Old Boy remake. And he wrote a version of Treatment for I Am Legend. A very 90s film, is all I can say. It was going to be grey, it was going to be hardcore. And, you know, it was quite really interesting because out of everything, Ridley Scott jumped on board and he was happy to take on. And he brought on John Logan, who some of you may know is writing the Bond films. Ridley Scott, you know, he's a very tactical guy. He's very on this. And they rewrote it. Originally, it was going to be in LA. It went to San Francisco. And it was going to be what Ridley Scott does well is that balance of action and art film.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And yeah, so it was going to be a man piece about the character of Robert Neville. What happens, it's going to follow the beats of the story. Like, he's driving alone. He's the only man alive. He's got a fortified mansion. And what happens is he captures one of these new breed of vampires who crave from disease, and he's trying to try and find a cure for this disease. And what happens is that the female that he captures, they have like a bond. If you know how the story goes, it does take a very interesting and philosophical route. All the leads they could have in the 90s, you had Tom Cruise, you had Michael Douglas, and you had Mel Gibson. He chose one of the biggest action stars of that decade, who I can proudly say is the one, the only, Arnold Schwarzenegger!
No!
Get to the chopper! Get to the chopper!
To do that.
Yeah, you know what? When you do an Arnie film, you have to do it. Arnie was going to be the lead of this film, and this was going to be an interesting piece for him because, as you may know, Arnie's always playing the muscle-bound hero. Yeah. If you watch Commando, he just literally walks into a rain of bullets and doesn't get hit. He just literally walks like a tank.
Bulletproof. He was bulletproof. That
he
man.
was. He's a Terminator, man. He can literally take on anything. So Arnie, this was actually going to be a very dramatic piece for Arnie because Arnie, you know, despite him being, yes, he's English, he's a bit hit and miss. Yes, he's a big Tom guy, but he can actually act. I mean,
he can. I thank you for saying it. He can actually do it. I was watching Kindergarten Cop the other day.
Yeah.
He's good at it. He is good at it. I mean, the man can do it. I know that's a comedy, but even with comedic performances, it takes a dry actor. It takes someone who can do straight and do a serious thing to perform as well as he did in that. Mm-hmm. So I'm very much someone who thinks he's underrated. My sister, who is a director herself, would tell me to F off at saying he's underrated. But I think there's more to him than meets the eye.
Even in his later career now, he's made such films. There was Aftermath, which was about a grandfather who lost his family in the airplane.
Absolutely.
And he's actually done a version of a zombie film where
Maggie
as well, where he plays a dad who's losing his daughter.
I didn't see it. I saw the trailer and I want to watch it because, he looked brilliant in the trailer. And exactly what you're saying. Definitely.
The target was to get it made to be released in 1997. So that was the release date for the film. What was going to happen was it was going to be set in a very bleak San Francisco in the year 2000. What interesting was this, that they gave not just character to Arnie, but also to the vampires. So these were very energetic, very powerful beings, quite similar to the vampires in, for example, Blade 2. Scott based those creatures on like African tribes and on pictures of like burn victims as well. So if you look at the imagery of those creatures, beautiful.
They're fantastic. They're fantastic designs. I mean, looking into it when you sent me about it, I was so kind of disappointed that this was not seen because the design is beautiful. Like the design of the creatures is so clever and grotesque. And I think when we were talking about the Will Smith film, this is what I'm talking about here. This is what I missed in the 2007 version, is stuff like what you've got there. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, because it was going to be these creatures. They spoke their own language, had body paint, and they made clothes out like bins and stuff to keep away from the sun. They weren't like the CGI that we got in the later film. And this is the great artwork of Alec Guinness and Tom Woodruff Jr., who also were the designers on films like Tremors and Leviathan. They had really top people, and what's great about this film is there are still like drawings from Ridley himself, because he's a very practical guy. He draws everything as well, and there's beautiful designs. This was a really great film. There was great promise, and Arnie's character, he's a survivor. He still had his love for cigars and hummus. Basically, that was going to be his character. However, this film didn't come to light. What happened was, this was a very difficult project. The budget was starting to get bigger. Originally, the film started out small, and it began to expand. It became 108 million. And then from there, 108 million, it just, because everything, was just makeup, getting C, all the design. What was very worrying at this time was Ripley Scott had 3 big flops on his resume. G.I. Jane, White Squall, and the film about Christopher Columbus. So those were like 3 massive big flops. And this was him trying to make his comeback, trying to say, no, I can make this film. I'm still a great director. I gave you Blade Runner. At the same time, the studios were getting worried because the budget was getting bigger. And so what Ridley tried to do is he tried to cut down the script, along with John Logan, tried to cut down the script to at least 20 million. So at least, they could work on the budget. Scenes had to be changed, cut out. And what happened in the end was the studio said, it's too much, it's got to go. There is a light to this for good old Ridley. Ridley went on to make Gladiator with John Logan. And we all know how that went.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius. Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance.
So Dave, what were your overall views of Ridley Scott's 1997 version of I Am Legend? Is it something that you would love to see, or was it something that you would adore?
I would have loved to have seen it. I think when you told me this is what I was going to have a crack at, and I looked at it, I was very disappointed. I mean, dare I say, I think 97 maybe feels a little bit too early. I think it would have been wonderful to have seen this maybe early thousands, earlier than 2007, but just early thousands. I feel like 90s, it felt like a film that I feel like the 90s was still very much loud. Too loud for something like this, where this needed time, and it felt like it had the potential to be one of Arnie's first really kind of moving parts. It was also just the creatures, the design of the creatures, like, alone made me so sad to know that this was not made, because there's something about it. Also, the storyboards. When you look at the storyboards as well, of how they were going to film it and things that were going to happen, it was just, it had so much potential. And the fact that he picked Arnie, I think, is a great idea that he picked Arnie at that time, because people, I think this is why I think the early 90s, it would have ended up going down bad, I think. Is because people would have looked at Arnie and gone, I expect him running in explosions everywhere, blah, 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 and expect something really over the top, like The Sixth Day. Do you remember that crazy film that Arnie did?
Tells the devil to go fuck himself.
You want to fuck with me? You think you know bad, huh? You're a fucking choir boy compared to me! A choir boy!
Basically.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, they will have expected that. And what they would have got is actually a very moving one-man, I'd say like Castaway with vampires and action. A bit of action. That's what they would have been given. And that's why I feel like, had it been in the early 2000s, I think the world would have been ready to see Arnie do that. If it had come out in 97, a lot of people, I think, would have gone, what the fuck is going on? Why hasn't Arnie got camouflage on his face? Why isn't he? Why? There was one thing that I did think, actually, that I'd want, though, from the 2007 version going into this version, and it couldn't happen because Shrek wasn't around then. But there's a wonderful scene in I Am Legend with Will Smith where he starts imitating Donkey from Shrek.
Yeah. Yes, I was talking to you. Can I just tell you that you was really great back then? Those gods, they thought it was all that. Then you showed up and bam.
And I did think in my head, can you imagine a version where Arnie's imitated Donkey from Shrek? I'd have loved that. Him going, "Wow, I love Shrek. Wow,
I'm making waffles." Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, I was very disappointed. That it looked like.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that it was not made, and I didn't realize I would have felt as connected. Because I watched a previous episode about Godzilla 2, and that part of me kind of goes, I liked the first one, it's all right and stuff, but this one, I probably was like, no, I wanted this. This is a film that I definitely would have loved to have seen.
Well, David, you might have a chance to bring your own spin it, because now it is time to enter. So, David, your concept for 1997's I Am Legend with Arnie.
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that for this version, I would still like to ask for Ridley Scott to be a producer of some kind, an executive producer maybe, to try and push forward some of his same designs, because I feel like they're a shame not to have. I would have probably asked John Logan to write the script as well, again. But this time, I'm sticking with Arnie of today.
Okay.
Sticking for Arnie of today. Because I feel like the movie Maggie, even though I've not seen it, is going to promote this a little bit. And I think the way I would have it, also director, put it out there, David Fincher. I'm putting it out there, David Fincher, because I feel like David Fincher is very good at environment. He's very good at locations. He's very good at setting a certain feeling to a film. And he's very good at, tension and his surroundings. And it also has a personality that I sometimes feel Ridley Scott, like I mentioned, doesn't have. Sometimes in his movies. I feel like this film needs a personality. It needs a feel of grim and fear or whatever. And I think Fincher can do that perfectly with lighting and vision. So Arnie of today as well. I want Arnie to be the age he is now, because I like this idea that the man that's left there is a natural doctor who is 70, an old man who can look after himself, but isn't an action hero, but a man, an old man in a really shit situation. The idea I've got for it. So as we know in the book, he meets a female vampire, where he has a connection. Now, the way that's set out, it's a bit mad, but I like this idea of we start off with old, and then maybe a moment where he steps back into his old hospital where he used to work. And then we go to a flashback. And I'd have a series of flashbacks going, basically, Deadpool. You know how Deadpool is set in one segment of the story, and then it goes back to flashbacks until it meets itself at the starting point. That's what I'd like to do with this, in the sense that I'd like, for example, I'd like to see him as a doctor in the office and him having a friend. And I was thinking of a friend like a Meryl Streep, or someone like that round about his age, and have him showing this kind of relationship he has with this person before the lockdown or before the chaos happened, and then it going back to his normal life. So eventually he bumps into his old friend, this Meryl Streep. And in the book, I don't know, in the book, it seemed like he doesn't realize she's a vampire or something, and he makes a bond. And I like this idea that we do the same situation in the story where he does befriend and fall in love in a way with a vampire that he doesn't realize till later on, and then he gets the ending where he is sent to be killed by the vampires because she's set him up. I like this idea that it's his friend that he had a long time ago, and he ends up bumping into her, and then they start a friendship, whatever, and then she reveals that she was doing it all the time, setting him up, but there was still love there, and that she regrets what she does. And she puts him in the, in the end, and he has. I still think there will be action. I'd still have the situations where he has to, because I think in his situation, when we first see him in his situation, I still think he should have that process of being a doctor, surviving killing, and trying to find a cure. But I don't want that just to be all about that. I like this idea of seeing him surviving, him doing those action horror moments, and then having that relationship with an old friend, like a Meryl Streep. I think there was another one I had, like a Julianne Moore even, or someone like that, where, we go back to his life, seeing this friendship they had as colleagues. And then when he sees her, he's so happy to see her. He thinks it's all settled, that he can, and have her help him in his research. And then eventually she reveals what she's done. I think there you're getting the right amount of the book with your own little spin and take of it. And I just think if you had someone like David Fincher in there, because he isn't all about action. In fact, I don't think he does a lot of action. So
he hasn't done, no, it's quite a lot of thrillers, yeah.
Thrillers. So I think that'd be perfect to have him do that. I think it'd be the right level. I fear that I'm not saying that there'd be enough. I think there should still be a chunk of action in there, but to give credit to these designs, because I think the designs, the reason why I promote them so much is I think they could be as iconic as the designs in Alien, as iconic as the designs in Blade Runner. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so sad that it didn't happen is because of those designs. If you look at them, they're beautiful and they're wonderful. And if you could bring Ridley Scott in, get those designs back, get David Fincher in, and a real Arnie of today with like a Julianne Moore, a Meryl Streep, where they have that connection, I think that doesn't come off as cheesy, is actually then a really hard-hitting and moving piece. And I think it would have the same amount of punch as the book did. Because I feel like the book, it stood the legacy of time because of its twists and its realism. It seemed like it was, it seems like an American's version of, I might make an ass of myself here, but like a bit like 1984. It feels like it has that, it hit home.
So like a Greek tragedy.
Yeah, and it certainly hit home. And I feel like with what I've set out there, I don't think I've explained the storyline linear properly, but it is that situation where you start off in one situation and then you find out more about the character in a series of flashbacks until they meet again, him and this other lady. And then you get into the ending, basically. So, you get to finish it off.
Okay, so what, in your ending, as you may recall, originally Will Smith jumps and blows himself up.
Yeah, didn't like that.
Okay, well, as you may know, in the original book, he's captured and he's about to be killed. He discovers that he's the actual monster, not them.
Yeah.
Arnie is a big guy. Would you still have that ending scene, or if he doesn't like it, is it okay for him to come up and carry out 2 bazookas.
No, I'd have the original ending. I'd have him carted off by and killed off by the vampires. I'd have that traditional ending. I believe in my gut with the right direction and people, because I think now is the time to look at Arnie as a real person. It's now is the time. I like this idea that he is a real dad. That's why I like him as his age now and who he is now. I think it really, because at the end of the day, I Am Legend is about an average guy. He's not a superhero. And that's why maybe the 1997 thing, it would have really missed the point of I Am Legend. The fact that I think he's 72 now or 73.
Yeah,
or something like that.
He's in his 70s, yeah.
He's in his 70s. I think that's perfect. I just see it. I think it's good.
Okay, so I'm just visioning it out now. So,
yeah,
you've got Dave Fincher as your proposed director.
Yeah.
You've got Arnie
yeah.
as your main cast. You're going to keep the ideas of the original concept.
Yeah.
Including the original ending for the character. And you want Mel Streep or / Julianne Moore to play the female vampire.
Yeah.
Excellent. And are you still sure that you don't want the 2 bazookas at the end? I just want to make sure, just in case we lose the audience, you know, he kills himself but pulls out 2 bazookas at the end.
You know what I will have? You know what I'm happy to have? I'm happy to have one of the vampires dressed up as Commando. I'm happy to have that. I'm happy to have one of the vampires with a bazooka in his hand, just as Commando, if people want it. But that is as much as you're going to get. And I don't believe David Fincher would want to film that guy. He'd be dodging him.
Well, he tried. Well, if you know what he did with Alien 3, which we will talk about in the episode. So this sounds like a really interesting project. So what would be the ideal budget for this film? Are you going to make it a big one? Or are you going to go indie or a lower budget?
Oh, I think it needs to be a big budget, but only because of location. It wouldn't so much be about, there'd be pyrotechnics, there would have to be action in there, because I think it would be good to have action in there. And to see Arnie as an average Joe, well, you know what I mean, an older gentleman having to push himself into a scary situation. So there has to be action in there. But I'd say, what would you say to help me? Because I don't know budget.
Okay, well here,
what would you say is like a kind of like not extreme box office action, but like edging.
So an edging here at We Make It Happen Studio / Warner Brothers. What we will suggest is if we give you a budget of around 100 million. And that's including the budget for Arnie's cigars. Are you happy to take that budget and make this film? If we gave you just 100 million, or would
you know what?
Extra?
You know what? I'm gonna go 125 just to be safe. Okay. I feel like 125. It just I because I also can imagine it. I'd want it in Los Angeles because I think they did it in New York. I think in San Fran. I think it's set in LA, so I'd want it in LA.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling the amount of money you'd have to give to LA to have it empty to film would be a lot of money. So I'm going to say 125 million.
125 million. So your version of I Am Legend for a whole layout now. You're going to make it for 125 million. You're going to keep Arnie. You're going to have old Arnie. So this is technically literally Old Man Logan.
Yes.
That's awesome. Excellent. Okay. You got Dave Finch, director, Old Man Logan. It's going to be shot in LA. Yeah, I think to me that sounds like a really good budget. But it's not up to me. It's up to people watching. So what we like to know is that if you enjoyed David's specific idea for his project, either give a like or say, "Bomb, I like it." Or if you don't, you can just say, "Nah, stick with the original," and we can all just enjoy it. Look at him go.
And if you do that, you have no taste.
Indeed, you have no taste, just like those bald vampires. Yeah, again, we've reached the end of the picture room. So before I say adios, I want to say a massive thank you to David Allen for being a great guest and bringing his pitch to the picture room. Look at him, so smug. So if you want to follow David, all his links and comments from like Insta are all down below. From me, I want to say thank you, David, for coming on and being a great guest on the Pitching Room.
Thank you, Luke. Cheers, mate. Love you. Mwah!
I love you too, weirdo. All I want to say is thank you for watching the Pitching Room. My name is Luke Richard, and I'll see you very soon.